Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Film Element Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Gallant, and today I'm going to be interviewing a fellow filmmaker, Jay Reid, who is responsible for the new horror thriller called Sick Puppy, which I was fortunate enough to be involved with as an editor, sort of an editor that came in after the process. So I'm going to bring Jay in right now. Jay, how are you?
Hey, Mike, how's it going?
Good, good. Thanks for taking the time to chat with me today. And,
Of course.
I wanted to have you on because, well, it's kind of funny for me. I go through a weird experience with this podcast because people have now started to, not a lot of people, but a few people here and there have told me, like, oh, maybe you should, like, talk about this, or you should interview this guy or over here. And it's kind of weird because I'm always in a weird position because I'm like, I only want to do this and I want to do interviews with people that I want to do interviews with. Like, I don't have
Right.
any mandate to do this. But I just thought you would be a great person to chat with because, I was brought in as an editor on this film, which is called Sick Puppy, which you wrote and directed, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. So I was brought in and I really enjoyed the project, or at the very least, I enjoyed the process of working on the project. I think the film is works really, really well on a lot of different levels. It's really twisted and
Uh-huh.
demented in a lot of ways. And as I'm sure you are discovering, there's an audience out there for that. Uh, and I
Yep.
and I enjoyed a lot of those aspects of the film. So I just, we'll have a little chat here. I just want to
hmm
ask you from the very beginning, like, how did you get started in film, and how did you end up making Sick Puppy?
Well, I think the first thing I ever did as relates to film, aside from like stuff in like high school, was I wrote scripts at the end of my high school experience for my writing class, and it was my first script ever, and it was a horror script. Sort of had a David Lynch vibe to it. I was big into the Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me at that time, and it was like super long, of course. Like you like people don't realize that scripts are like way shorter these days. But back then, you can just kind of maybe not get away with it, but it was okay to write like a 140-page script. Now, obviously, that's not the case. But
I
so
don't
I
think you
wrote
could have ever
this.
gotten away with a 140-page script.
No, the guy who wrote Heather's. That script was like 200 something pages, and that was, I mean, obviously the movie's much shorter, but like they used to turn in these things, and then people would be like, "Oh, yeah, sure, we'll shoot part of it." Like, it's pretty much like now they're just like, we don't have time
Yeah.
for that. So,
They're like, we don't even have
but
time to
yeah,
read all of that, let alone shoot it.
no, exactly. They don't even have time for like 90 pages. So I'm like handing this thing into my teacher, and then she gave me a really great grade on it, despite the fact that it was actually quite violent and had a lot of sex in it. Because I'd watched a lot of horror films growing up, and they tend to have that stuff. So she's
You're
like,
like, and I
if
was a
this would,
little screwed up too. Let's not lie.
yeah, well,
I'm just kidding.
if I had submitted it now,
Yeah.
they would have put me in, like, they would have had to call like people in.
Which is funny to
It's
think because
like,
you were a teenager when you handed that in. So
yeah,
it's like when you're a teenager, it's fine, no problem.
no, it's cool.
But
Yeah,
as an adult who
but
has an
yeah,
awareness
yeah,
of like artistic merit, then you're a problem.
yeah, 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 exactly. So
That's funny.
I'm just like, I handed it into her, and she really really liked it. But she's like, if I didn't know you so well, know you're a sweet, nice guy. I would have been quite disturbed by this. So, but she's like,
She's like,
you
"Are
did
you a
something really
school
interesting.
shooter by any chance?" I
Yeah,
feel
well, it's actually
obliged
during,
to ask.
yeah, because it's like it was actually during sort of that time. I think like Columbine was only like a few years before, so people were a little on edge
Right.
at that time. So I was very surprised that there wasn't some sort of issue. But it was kind of at that time, last time, where you can kind of be like, the kid's a little screwed up,
Right.
you know. But yeah, so after that, like, it kind of gave me a little bit of a confidence boost, and I applied to film school in Montreal, and I didn't get into the production program, but I got into the film studies program, and from there, I just watched a lot of film. I got to understand film a lot better from more of a theoretical standpoint. And I made stuff on the sides, like just short films. I did a little summer at USC, and I did made films there.
Oh, cool.
And over the course of the time, I kind of went through periods where I almost like sort of gave up on it. I actually became a journalist for a while.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that about you.
Yeah, not a very long time. I
Yeah.
was like a freelance journalist. I never worked for a paper or anything, but I'd write for like the Gazette, and then there's an indigenous newspaper in Montreal, so I wrote for occasionally. And at that point, while I was in journalism school, I met a guy who was an actor, and he's like, let's do something together, because we both love film, and so we did something together, and it kind of got me back onto it, and I just continued working in film ever since. And then I kept making short films. I got awards for screenwriting from like the Quebec government, and
Oh, wow.
eventually, like like my short film got into the telefilm Not Short on Talent, and after that I was just like, well, I kind of want to just, I've always wanted to do features, and nobody, during that time I kept sending scripts out, and nobody would want to make anything, because it was either too weird or, they didn't know me, they didn't trust me, which is understandable.
Yeah.
So what, my one of my like good friends, who's also a director of photography, we'd worked on multiple projects together. JP, who shot Sick Puppy with me,
Right.
we got together and we said, hey, like, what kind of money can we earn from our regular jobs? Put a little bit in, and then we can go out and try and find the rest. And that's kind of how it went. And we managed to get like great actors for this, because we made I wanted to make like the script like a good story.
Yes.
An interesting story for people, even if it has like elements that are a little shocking. It should still be a good story. So that's how come we got like beginning on this project.
Well, and this isn't a review podcast, or like this episode isn't a review. Like I always like to approach talking about these films from sort of the business side, outside in. And what I like thinking about now, especially with Sick Puppy specifically, and you and I have talked about this on WhatsApp, is that now Obsession, I would say very specifically, is this humongous generational runaway hit, right? That came out about a month ago, or a month and a half ago. And to me, there are two core things that I think made that movie sing and be successful. And I think Sick Puppy has these two core principles as well. I'll bleed into almost three. And three is a little more like lowest common denominator, but I'll get to that one last. I think first, the lead actors, the male and female, like it's about a relationship, very similar to how Obsession was. And those two actors in that movie are so much fun to watch. Obviously, everyone's talking about Indy, and she hopefully is going to get an Oscar nomination, maybe even win, who knows. And I feel the same way about Natasha and John, who are the lead actors of Sick Puppy. I think they're so incredibly fun to watch and engaging.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is that you have this great hook. You have this. I've heard you talk about this is sort of very, very like not base at all, but sort of loosely inspired by Paul Bernardo and Carla Homolka and other like Bonnie and Clyde type of serial killer relationships out there. But what you do is put this fun spin on it, which is weird to say because there are some very, very disturbing scenes in the film. And you and I even talked about this when I was editing it. Like there's some stuff I'm like, do we have to show it? Do we have to do that? And obviously at the end of the day, it's your vision and I understand. And I that's just my own personal take, but I understand
Yeah.
a lot of people A can stomach it, and B are kind of there to see people push the limits, right? Kind of
Right.
exactly the way Obsession did as well. And I thought Obsession
Hmm.
had this really great addictive hook to it where, it's the monkey paw whole thing. And that's what I think
Yeah.
Sick Puppy, and like I said, lowest common denominator, baseline, as a dude, I'll just speak on that. Number three, you have a very attractive cast. And,
Yeah. No, I've been told that by even our distributor that yeah, that was
I mean, Natasha,
it
they're
wasn't an
both
intention.
incredibly good looking, John and Natasha. And they work together and they have this really great chemistry. So I think that as an editor, just watching them, it's like, it just makes your job easier. There's no bad angle that I have to cut away from. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
they just come alive on the screen. And obviously, going back to Obsession, I also think that was a key to Obsession's success is that we just have this incredible new face that we've never seen, and the guy in it as well. So I think,
Yeah, he is fantastic.
yeah, and I think people underestimate the power of that sometimes. Like everyone tries to be too high-minded about it, and then when they aren't, they seem to see success from it. But I think you have to the characters have to look like that in Sick Puppy
Hmm.
in order for it to really work, because you go
Yeah.
with Natasha's character, you go, how can she possibly be into this guy this much? And then he looks the way he does, and then he takes off his shirt, and then I'm like, well, I assume if you're a girl, this guy is really easy to look at. So
Yeah, but I actually never really, tried to make, Brett's character like super like, but he just happened to be like that.
yeah,
Like it was never like the reason for like Natasha's character Charlie to be, you know, like that is actually because she was like a cheerleader and she took very good care of herself over the
yeah.
years, and it was like it was all character based, but it just so happens to have worked out quite well as far as like people do like to see that,
Yeah,
and especially when you're dealing with like really awful
yeah.
characters. Sometimes like it's a little bit easier to stomach.
Well, what
To
it
say,
does,
yeah.
in my opinion, is that it sells you on the dream of how they ended up in that position. Uh,
Right.
I believe because of how good looking John is, then I can kind of understand more why Natasha was so into him, right? It's like
Right.
if John was like a 5 and Natasha
Yeah.
and he still cast Natasha, the imbalance of that would just be harder to stomach and get over. But casting is storytelling, and I can say that as a filmmaker, and that's something that people don't think about very often, is that just by casting someone that has a certain look or looks a certain way or just carries themselves a certain way, you are also telling part of the story, and you are helping the audience get through a backstory that they don't even realize that they're learning just by who is doing it. You know what I mean? Like it, it's like it's like you can cast a guy as a cop, and it's like, oh, he needs to do that. Like we got to say how he got here. But then you can cast a guy who like delivers the lines a certain way and looks a certain way, and you're like, I don't even need his backstory. I get who he
Yeah.
is just by how this actor is playing him and how he looks. So I think that was a key thing that you guys had for your casting. Now, I want to talk more about the business side of it. Like, I think that's how I like to approach, especially during these interviews, because I think what you achieved here is pretty great. A, because I think the film is great, but B, I think this sort of came out of thin air. What I mean by that is that you had no real funding, like no telefilm or grants or anything like that. It was like you guys said, you just sort of brought this money together. And can you sort of talk about how that ball got rolling and who you approached and how people said yes, and then, just sort of, and give me the timeline of how that all worked out?
Yeah.
Well, as much
So
as you
what?
can or allowed or feel comfortable
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah. No. I can just kind of break down sort of how this was kind of like the funding pieces,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that's probably more useful to somebody. Because everyone has different ways of getting money. You know, some people have, well, I don't know, rich uncles or something.
Yeah.
I didn't have a rich uncle, but like they have those sort of things, and they're able to find those. And for us, the first money that got put in was our own, like myself and my director of photography, JP. JP shoots like short films, but he also shoots a lot of like ads, and he does like that type of work. So he had some money saved up. Same with me. I work in subtitling often, and as well as dubbing, and so I just kind of put a little money away here and there, trying to get it to be a decent amount, to at least get us started. And so we did that, and then we kind of just like basically just like hat in hand kind of crowdfunded a little bit privately. We didn't do it publicly because it was just easier and faster, and we didn't have to hire somebody for that. We just approached people on our own. And then
Well, are you
that
allowed
got
to
us.
speak a little bit, like what type of people were you approaching? Like
No,
was it
really,
other
honestly, just
producers?
like,
Was it people
no,
completely
no.
disassociated from the industry?
Yeah, completely disassociated from the industry. Just family, friends who like had seen like our work together
Okay.
over the years, and put it. But like that got us. It didn't even get us to like finish, principal photography.
Right.
Like it got us to start principal photography.
And just out of
What got
curiosity,
us
like,
to
what were you telling them? Like, I've gone down that road a little bit myself, but I'm always much more self-conscious about approaching anyone outside of like really, really immediate. Even I approached like a friend once, and then they were gun ho, and then that project just fell apart for various reasons. No real, obviously there's no animosity, but I'm so gun shy to go down that road again. And I'm just curious, you got over that hump, and what was sort of your pitch to these people?
Well, I think that helped the short that JP and I had gone to like Telefilm, not short on talent, and
Right.
it had gotten like it did pretty well at the genre festivals that we got into. It was during the pandemic, so it was a little more complicated. So, but we had gotten into some pretty good genre festivals. So I'd already had like the experience of like working in the genre space,
Mm-hmm.
and he had his own equipment. He had the camera that we shot on, and I was able to kind of like pitch them like, we have all these things that are kind of working for us. We have a story. I created a pitch deck.
Right.
Pitch deck is literally nobody's reading scripts, so you just do the pitch deck.
Yeah.
And there's a visual style to it. You can see where I reference movies that people understand, like Natural Born Killers or something along those lines. And you just kind of have to get lucky, to be honest with you. It's a tough thing, but you just kind of go around and get over the sort of shame of asking for money, and knowing that you are, and the most important thing you got to tell them is that there's no guarantee
Yes.
you'll ever see your money again.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no guarantee. I can tell you these are the things that we're going to do to make sure we can get it back, but again, the industry is so unpredictable. I can't like reasonably say you're going to get your money back. I mean, I can say like, because we did it's a pretty low budget still, that there's a stronger possibility that you can, but may take several years.
Yes.
So it's it's just going to like those type of people. It's a little bit easier with, like, I would say family or friends, because they're less thinking about it as an investment. Now but we did have outside investors, but they came in after the film was done.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
when we were shooting, we had enough money to kind of get through principal photography, but there was still a little bit left that was a little bit more complicated.
Yeah.
and we took advantage of the tax credit system to kind of help us get money beforehand for the tax credits. We, in advance on the tax credits, and we have to have, that was calculated out properly. You have to go through an accountant. You have to do all this stuff,
Oh yeah.
but we luckily had some producer that was very, very familiar with that, and we were able to get that amount so that we can continue, not lose momentum, and principal photography. As you know, some places, they shoot the movie and then it's just like, oh my god, they never know when editing is going to start because there's no money.
Yes. Yeah.
So we were able to, we had a little bit of a delay, but it was like 4 months, and as you know, that was for other reasons,
Yeah.
which I won't get into
Yeah.
here. But but yeah, but it's definitely like that. That was a part, and then also, we still needed even more money after that. As part of the post production, like that covered some of it, and it also covered some extra production costs that we weren't expecting. But it was we just went to outside investors. We had one of our producers just go, and what we did was we were able to, at least that there we could just like edit the film together, not the whole film, but just like certain scenes, like the fight scene, and then there's a couple other scenes that we put together just to give them like a sort of pitch. It was like a rough edit, like I think our DIT guy did, and
Oh, interesting.
we
Okay.
did that. Yeah, so like they just put it together. I didn't even know what they were editing. I was like, I don't want to even look at it because it's not going to be my edit anyways. Just put something that you think they'll want.
Right.
And so they did that, and by then we'd got like a Canadian distributor, which was Raven Banner.
Yes.
So that also helped.
So
Them.
yeah, you're jumping ahead a little bit, which is great. So I wanna slow down a little bit. So you guys film in 2000. What was it? 24.
23. It was like the end of 23.
Really?
It was like
Wow, okay.
October. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
Well,
guess
it was
I
the
worked on it when I came on. It was 2024, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow, that was 2
And
years
the
ago.
post period.
That is
The
insane to
post
think.
period was long.
Yeah.
The post period was super long, and then we were very lucky. But yeah, we shot it in 2020, the end of like September,
funny.
October
Well,
of 2023.
It's funny. Any filmmaker listening to this, just take that in, right? We're talking about this 3 years since they filmed it,
Yeah.
and 2 years since I edited it. And now I think the film is finally finding the legs and the home that it needs. I think so. Let's talk about that a little bit. Like, we don't need to get into the long post process because I don't think that's a whole
Yeah.
lot of fun for anybody. But
No, it was a very long post process, though.
and you were so great to work with. Like, I came in, I wasn't starting from scratch. Some scenes I did kind of do a page one rewrite on, but there was definitely enough there that like I could piece it together, and I would just go through stuff and say, oh, okay, like this is just too long, or these shots just aren't flowing, and I know like the edit points just aren't at the right point. It's like don't do it halfway through the sentence, do it at the end of the sentence. Like just all these little flow things that I'm aware of. And then obviously I had my opinions too of like, hey, I don't know if you need this or like blah 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 blah. And I forget how much I actually impacted any of that. But
You cut out 20 minutes from the film.
Did I?
So yeah, I think you. Yeah.
what's
you
the
did.
running time of the film now?
I think it's like I think it's like 100 minutes or something.
Oh, it is okay.
Yeah.
Wow, so it was
Yeah.
20 minutes longer than that.
I know it's well, I always wanted it to be shorter.
Yeah.
Like I'm totally cool with like it being a lot shorter. Could have been even shorter than that, but I think we were at that point pressed for time, and
Yeah.
we just had to kind of let it go.
Yeah,
But,
I think
you know.
100 minutes is okay. I think anything north
it's
of
fine.
that starts to certainly pull a little bit. You know, I've debated this with a lot of different people, and I'm having this really funny debate right now with I'm working on the vampire film that I told you about. It's like a few $1 million film. Really great script, top-notch actors. People, two Spielberg actors, funny enough, and
Oh, cool.
it's. I'm trying to tell the director and the producers that I'm like, I really want this to be shorter, and they're like, we are not going to do that. And it's such a weird process to me because I don't even know if I'm right about my approach in that, oh, I think this just should be shorter. I think there's certainly scenes that I'm seeing that I'm like, we don't need that. We don't need that. I'd rather get to this quicker. I'd rather, but I think that's also how my mind works is that I'm just always,
Right.
I just want to get in and out, especially when we're doing low cost indie. And I think especially with your project and a lot of projects that I've worked on in similar budget and scope, I'm always like, listen, we cannot overstay our welcome. As good as we think the film is, let's try and they'll like us even more if we don't overstay our welcome. No, know when know when to play them and know when to fold them or whatever that saying is. So so that was important to me to get the time down. I have no idea what I cut out and how I did that. Like I said, now I realize it's been 2 years since I was even in the editing room for that. But tell me more about. So the film is done, and I don't know at what point you guys colored and mixed it. Obviously, you had a composer come in do the music. So that process. Talk about that process, and then talk about what happened after. Were you submitting to film festivals, and then obviously you got into Fright Fest. So was that the first one, or was that the first big one? Like, I'll let you go now.
Okay. Yeah. So after we kind of nailed the edit with you, and I think part of the which is something that continues on in the process. The one thing that you brought that was the most important was helping me nail the tone that I wanted. That was that because it is a tricky tone.
Yes.
I think we both know it. There's some comedy in there, and you were right to kind of remove maybe the more overly comedic bits and stay with the more gallows humor that we were intending. I think that was definitely a part of it, and so
there was some.
To continue on.
I had heard you mention that in another podcast too, and I do recall there was probably some broad comedy. I don't remember what specifically there was, but I remember thinking I'm like, and when you brought that up in the podcast, I was like, oh yeah, like I do remember us having conversations saying, hey, your film is better than this joke. So you could lose it, and you would probably narrow down the tone even better. So it's not a broad comedy.
Brett and Rachel.
It's a dark comedy.
Yeah. Although Brett and Rachel absolutely, it was the joke. I think one of the jokes was with them, and they're just like, "Oh, I can't believe you cut that." I was like, "Trust me, it works better without it."
I think I vaguely remember that. Yeah, there being like a couple.
It would have gotten a laugh, I'm sure.
Just like goofy jokes with them.
Yeah, it was just goofy.
Yeah.
It was goofy because they would also ad-lib sometimes. I don't remember if it was I think it was one of mine, but it could have been. There's a mix. There were some ad-libs in there.
Ooh,
as well,
Jay's going to throw one of them under the bus.
No,
just kidding. I'm kidding.
No. I'm pretty sure what you cut out was me because most of the ad-libs that I remember are actually still in the film. So that's.
And listen,
right.
I'm a bit of an actor too, so it's like actors can ad lib, but they're just also just trying to work through the scene sometimes, and it's like, I guess I'll just keep going, until they're stopped or someone yells cut. So they might take as most improv does. It's like it can go off in another direction. And then at the end, you're like, what the hell were we doing? What were we thinking? We were like so wrapped up in a moment, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So.
No, yeah, for sure.
So you went through that process, and then you got through the coloring, and so did that take like another year, or what sort of happened there?
Almost.
Yeah.
I think when you left us, it was as you're well aware, you were the second editor, and there was um, that process had taken a significant amount of time, but I think we were like by the end of the summer, right? It was like I can remember September,
Yeah.
October, and that's when they started on the long process of doing like sound. Music had already started.
Okay.
Music started quite early on during the edit because it was a friend of mine and we were just working stuff out constantly. Um, and then but both of those things, I think what took also some time was also tonally
Mm.
as well, because sometimes they would go a little goofy with the soundtrack and I was like, no,
Oh,
no, kind
interesting.
of bring it back down. And even the music too, it would go, the music is so unique to this film because we spent a lot of time trying to do it, and it's like a mishmash of different styles, and so we wanted to have that kind of hit the right tone with that as well. Like the coloring just took long because there was issues with timelines.
Oh.
It is not the work was good, but it was just timelines were not handled correctly.
Did you go through a
But
post
we had
house, or did you use a freelancer colorist? Yeah.
freelance colorist, and but in the end, the work was good on everyone's part, and that's what really matters. But it did delay us like submitting to festivals and stuff. So I think the first round of festivals that we sent off to, I think Fright Fest was in the first round,
Okay.
and we I was looking, like I had a list of festivals that I was like if I get into any one of them, I'm like I'm good.
Yeah.
Wasn't like, I mean, obviously you submit to like the big ones like Cannes and TIFF and all that stuff,
Mhm.
but they're super hard. I was really hoping for like a good genre fest,
Yeah.
and Fright Fest is like at the top of the list,
Totally. Yeah.
and I submitted to them, and like 2 weeks later they got back to me and they were like, we'll love to have the film in. So I was like,
Wow.
all right, well that was quick, and I'd already gotten what I wanted, so I was like, great, that's
Yeah.
awesome. And I think some people would have liked to have maybe premiered in Canada first and then kind of gone on, but you know what, I got to have my film premiere in the West End of
And there's
London
so like
during
there's
the
so
summer.
many.
It's like amazing.
Yeah, and there's so many opportunities to screen. Like it doesn't matter what comes first,
No,
right? It's like
no,
there's
exactly.
not going to be
Yeah,
overlap of people in England being in Canada be like, oh, I already saw it, and then we're burned.
yeah,
It's like
yeah, yeah.
two opposite ends of the
No,
planet. I think you're fine. Um,
yeah,
so that's great,
yeah,
and you had a
and
great premiere in at Fright Fest, and I've worked on
yes,
several films that have either premiered or screened at Fright Fest, and that's always the top of the list for horror films. That's where they all want. Like I said, whether they want to premiere or at least screen there, that always seems to be a really big deal, which is great.
yeah,
So then, did Raven Banner come in before that, or did they?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they were part of the tax credits.
Okay.
You have
Oh,
to have
okay.
a Canadian distributor. So
Oh,
they
okay.
were involved way before. There's a certain limit on who you can use for that. So
Interesting. Okay.
they came on before, and they were the natural, I suppose. There were a few options, but I think our producers had some relationship with them, so I think that was the easy choice at the time. And at Fright Fest does a lot of like promotion, and you get a lot of reviews. You got a lot of coverage. They have a red carpet where like there's doing TikTok interviews and all that stuff.
That's great.
So we got a lot of stuff off of that, and we didn't have a sales agent at the time. Uh,
Wait,
so
so
uh,
was Raven Banner wasn't your sales, like they didn't have someone representing sales for Sick Puppy?
No, because they're just our Canadian distributor.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
We still we kept the world option. We didn't really have anyone for the world option,
Okay.
so it was still open. We could go with anyone we wanted.
Right.
And yeah, so what happened was getting into Fright Fest. Like, we had another producer come on from you know just like an executive producer who is just fantastic. He's a great guy. He's a friend of my producer Jason's, and he's my friend too. And he's a nice, like, he has a very good understanding of the business as well as the especially the genre side of things. And
Can you say his name?
oh yeah, Jason Goldberg. He
Jason
did
Goldberg.
yeah, he produced this movie called Glorious, which is on Shudder. It's got Ryan Quanten, I believe, and J.K. Simmons. It's a really interesting film. It was directed by, I believe, the Fangoria, somebody from Fangoria. I saw it. I enjoyed it. It was a really unique, kind of weird take on otherworldly encounters, and it's but like, so he knew him, and he was able to kind of get us out there and be seen. He liked the film a lot, and he wanted to help us. And
Nice.
so he kind of got the film to the people that he knew, that he had spent years building these relationships. And one of them, we got a few offers, but one of them was from Dark Sky, which I was familiar with as well, because I think when I went to my first Fantasia, or my second Fantasia film, it was a Dark Sky film, and these guys were well known in the business.
Yeah.
Like, they had also, one of the films that influenced me the most when making this, like, one of the two films that influenced me the most was Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, and MPI Dark Sky actually made Henry, a Portrait of a Serial Killer, like, produced it before they were even a distribution company. So
It
like
is
they
just
yeah.
to go on that a little bit. It is strange how serendipitous that can happen sometimes. I'm literally in the same boat with my film Back Pay. Like, I tried to, it hasn't done a festival run or anything yet, but I tried to, like, hit up a few distributors, and the ones that some liked it, some, one gave me an offer. I wasn't crazy about it, and it wasn't working. And then all of a sudden, the company that I was aware of, and I've seen their films, and I thought, man, it'd be crazy if we got them. They're the ones that came on board and saw the potential of the film and whatever that they can do with it. Who knows what that'll turn into, right? Right? That's the other side of a distribution. I'm sure you're going to understand it soon if you haven't already, right? Is that, you know, distribution can sometimes be the greatest thing in the world. Whoever gets your film, takes and runs with it, makes it work. Or you can end up in a situation where you have to really make it work. And maybe promises aren't kept, or maybe they are and expectations need to change, right? On your end, especially. So, but you don't really know when you're in a situation like that usually until you're pretty far in.
Right.
So,
No,
like, I,
absolutely.
I I got who I wanted, similar to how you did with Dark Sky. But at the same time, it's like I could look back a year or two from now and then go, nah, maybe I should have gone over here. And hopefully I don't. I don't feel that's going to happen. But a lot of people have been through a lot of rough situations with distribution. It's not something a lot of people talk about, and they should definitely talk about more.
Well, I guess they're scared that, like, maybe if they start bad mouthing distributors, that
Well,
nobody
but
will.
it's not about that. Like, there's nothing to badmouth about Dark Sky or anything. They haven't. You're in it with them, and they're doing great things for you. But it's just funny how it's like how serendipitous that can happen sometimes. Because I'm sure, like you said, you might have talked to other distributors and things weren't working, and then all of a sudden the company that you want to be with is the one that wants to take your film on. So it's like you manifested it
Yeah.
together,
Well,
right?
I I trusted them. Based on, they seem like genuine people.
Yeah,
They're
which is
they're
really important
nice.
for sure.
They're nice. They understand movies. We, like any distributor, you're not going to agree on every single thing that they do.
Yeah.
But it's about like the general like being okay with like the people and trusting them to a certain extent,
Yes.
as you can in this business, and liking the stuff they put out. And like these guys, pretty much like two of the more famous films that they have there are, Henry and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
Yeah. That's
which is
great.
my favorite horror film. So but they also just like over the years have created these like really interesting, like sort of dark comedies and horror films. They got, like they started off like Ty West's early films. So they really like kind of have an idea about like what's working,
And that is
as
also
far as
really
like horror.
important, is to find distributors that understand that, like, would take your film, right? Like, I think a lot of people just assume any distributor would take any film. And it's like, no, you preferably, in my opinion, you want to find someone who can specialize and really understand what your film is, rather than someone that just shotguns a catalog of different films out into the ether without really any focus on any particular genre or budget level or anything, right? It's like you want someone that understands what your film is and isn't just taking it on to like juke up their catalog a little bit and take a few dollars every year.
And you can see that when they try to promote the film,
Yeah.
when they cut the trailer,
Yeah.
or when they kind of did the poster for the film, you could tell they got the film. They
Yes.
understood it. Like they understood the tone. They understood everything that was required but they also like knew how to kind of sell it in their own way.
Yeah.
So I think that like solidified it for me because I was like, okay, they get the movie.
Yeah. No, that's great. So let's talk about where it is now and what sort of the next couple of months looks like for Sick Puppy. And I think it's been released in the U.S. now, and then when is it coming to Canada? Why don't you let everyone know what's going on?
So Sick Puppy was released on May 22nd in the U.S. in theaters and on video on demand at the same time, which is kind of like a hybrid model that Dark Sky often uses.
That's great.
It was like a limited release theaters, but we were in a few cities, and I attended the LA premiere with Brett and Rachel and Jason, Goldberg as well. We all had a great time, and it was a very nice like reception. Like people really seemed to enjoy themselves, which is great because it was like 10 p.m. on a Friday.
Yeah.
So it was great. We had a moderator from Fangoria, and it was no, it was a fun time. And so now after that, it's still being available. I don't know when it's going to hit streaming. That we haven't had that conversation yet. And also physical media. That's on the table now. So
Ooh, okay.
we're going to see. I'll have more news about that as it goes on.
And any
But
word of like
as far
how it's done in the other theaters in the select? Any? Have you been able to get any numbers or any info?
well, usually they give you like quarterly reports
Yeah.
and stuff. So that'll come later on.
Yeah.
I'll figure that out. I mean, it's hard, especially for like an indie film, like you know, one of the reasons that like Obsession did so well, aside from just like having this guy having his own, background and fan base, is that it's like it's a bigger company that has access to more publicity, that has access to more, and it's a
course,
lot
yeah.
of money. Like people are like, oh, this movie was made for
Yeah.
750,000. No. Look at what the marketing budget was for
They
that.
probably
You saw the
dropped 10
billboards, you saw-
million, and then the word of mouth just turned into its own thing, turned into memes, turned into tweets, and it's like, and you just have this really great lead actress who, like, it's like everything couldn't have gone more right in their in their favor, and they deserve it. The movie is incredible, so it's like you can't
Yeah,
even
yeah,
argue.
yeah.
It's just one of these things
No.
that happens sometimes.
and they have a great marketing campaign
Yeah.
too. And those type of things require a lot of money, and like indie films generally don't have that.
Yeah, and
And so yeah, and so like I don't know how it would have done. I think there was a strong push for the video on demand as well, because a lot of people just like wouldn't have access to the film
yeah.
otherwise, because it's only playing in select cities. So people were like asking about the film. I was like, I'm glad that they were able to do that. We've taken a bit of a different approach in Canada. In Canada, we're not presently planning just yet to go on to video on demand.
Okay.
We will eventually, I expect, but the right now we're sticking with just a theatrical
Yes.
release.
Can you
And
take the film on the
yeah,
road? Can you?
that's what we're doing.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
great.
because I think for a film like this, it is really hard to put it in a theater for like a week and expect it to,
Yeah.
do well. Maybe down the line, maybe once it builds up a lot of, good, positive word of mouth, then that is a possibility. But right now, it's like kind of going
Well,
out
if you
there, and
listen,
especially right now, like
if you're gonna
back
go on
rooms
the
and
road
everything
with
out
it,
there.
this is what I tell you:
Mm.
call it the Canadian obsession. That's all. Put in every headline. This to me,
Yeah.
this film is as close to obsession as anything else. So why not lean into it, and why not dovetail off of that success? Because there's
Yeah.
a lot of parallels, and there's a lot to enjoy, obviously in both films.
Right.
But I think people are going to enjoy Sick Puppy a lot more than they expect, and I'm sure you kind of saw. I'm sure the reactions at your LA premiere probably leaned into that more than you even expected.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I was
yeah,
surprised. Like people, well, when you're sitting in the theater, especially it's hard. Like drama is impossible to tell.
yeah,
Like you can't. They'd just be sitting there and like, but you could hear the laughter,
yeah,
or you could hear the gasps when like a certain character was threatened or another one was killed.
right,
You knew people were paying attention.
yes,
So that's kind of nice. But yeah, the we had our first screening at the Rio Theater in Vancouver.
yes,
So we were able to get some people out for that. It was kind of hosted by the Vancouver Horror Show, which is like a pretty much like the biggest like horror festival here in Vancouver, and they were so nice to do that. The head David Taylor hosted the Q&A, and it was just it was great response. Like I was noticing like people had like some great questions at the
yeah.
end, and they had some amazing like responses, like just listening to them in the audience, which is
And are you taking it, if you don't mind me asking, are you taking it on the road like is Dark Sky or Raven Banner, one of those people? Are they sort of, financing this tour, or are you sort of like putting it on your back, and then that way you get, like I said, people think it's tacky to talk about money, but this is what this is what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the business of film and how we make money from these great projects that we do, right? So it's like, are you putting it on your back, or is Raven Banner or Dark Sky sort of helping finance the tour? Because it's not
they
cheap
help
to
out where
travel
they
around this country, that's for sure.
no, but they are definitely supportive of the the run that we're doing.
Yeah.
They promote it. They help out where they can. As far as organizing it, I would definitely say like that would be on my team and myself.
Yes. Okay.
I do have good relationships with people, especially like the theaters, because I'm a huge theater goer myself, so I can basically just tell them the truth. Like I support your theater all the
Yeah.
time. Let's do this. Like I try to make sure that it's a good idea, like financially for both
Of course. Yeah.
parties. Nobody's getting rich off of this, but it's like it's about like making sure that we support each other.
And it's word of mouth, it's spreading the
it's word of
word
mouth,
about
yeah.
the film.
Yeah, absolutely. And the theaters I've worked at, they've been very supportive, and they've been just especially like for indie horror film. I think that's Canadian indie horror film. Like that's great. I'm very happy with how that's going, and then so we do what we can to promote it as much as we can. And we're trying different methods, seeing what works the best. It's a learning process, I would say. I mean, we're playing next. We have some theaters that we're talking to across Canada. Next, I think made the most sense really would be to go where we shot the movie, which is in Toronto.
Yes.
And so my the theater that I actually was visiting during the filming of this movie, I would go there and see like Sleepaway Camp or some other horror movie, and they have a cool bar next door. I'd have dinner at. It's the Review,
Yeah.
and that's I was just there to see the Kill Bill extravaganza when they put the two movies together. I just saw that like in February or January or something, and I just love that theater, and I'm really glad that we're having kind of our Toronto premiere there.
Yes.
On July 15th.
Yes, I was about to say, let's make sure we drop the date. The Review in Toronto.
July 15th. 6:30 p.m.
6:30.
And it's going to be in Q&A with myself. I know Brett is going to be there for sure. And then we might have a few others, depending on their schedules. But it's
get Natasha. I think a lot of people are going to want to, get her autograph once they see this performance,
She is incredible. She's very, very busy. She just got a new show.
I know. It's a big show too, isn't it?
Yeah, it's big here. I think it's Netflix that does it.
Yeah.
I can't remember, but yeah, I do. She is quite busy.
Yeah.
So whenever she is able to do it, that'll be great, because I do think a lot of people really want to talk to her.
Yeah.
It's
I'd be like, why did you do this? How did you do this? Who are you?
It's a memorable performance. I think that's something that's going to continue. She'll get people coming up to her years later and being like, this is something special.
Yeah. No.
And I think that's absolutely and everyone that all my actors that we worked with together, they all did the same.
Mm-hmm.
They all turned in amazing performances, and they were such a fun people to work with, and they're friends, and I'm super happy that people are finally getting to see them in their own country.
Yeah.
With like their friends and family are going to get to see it, and I love that.
Yeah, man. Well, I appreciate you talking to me about this. My card is about to run out here, so.
Okay. Well, thanks for
no,
having
but
me
I'm glad we got a chance to talk about this, because I think it's important for people to hear about, and I think it's important for people to hear about a film like this, which to me is a really grassroots indie success story, and deserves to have the attention, deserves even more attention than it's already gotten. And, this to me is what it's all about. So I think that's great. So, yes, July 15th, I will be there, barring some other dramatic reason, but otherwise I will be there as well. I definitely want to go and support. And I don't think I've seen the finished film. I don't remember the edit. It's been 2 years, so I think I would remember like half of it, but overall I haven't heard the music. I haven't seen the color correct. I think you sent me a link once, but it was like really low grade. And I was like, all right, no, I want to see this at least in HD.
This will be the best way to see it.
Exactly, with an audience.
It's a nice 2K DCP.
Yes.
It's going to look good.
Great, man. All right, well, appreciate it, Jay. So that's been the Film Element Podcast. Thanks for listening, watching, whatever you're doing. Like, subscribe, check it out, and we'll see you maybe next week. I don't know when my next episode's going to be, but either way, thanks for listening and watching.